Welcome to another Finish First Cycle Breaker Talk. I'm Judge Dawson, and we have been working our way through the Cycle Breaker book. If you remember, that's the book I wrote. And the book really takes a look at the life of five men who were caught in the legal system, kind of like everyday people. And we follow their travel and their journey through this legal system, but there's a little twist to it. Instead of going to court immediately, they are sent to what's called Cycle Breaker Camp. And that's a place where they can learn leadership skills and development tools, kind of like what we're doing here. The fact that you are tuned in to this talk, the fact that you are listening, is your opportunity to gain some skills, some leadership skills, and at the very least, some wisdom on how to avoid total derailment of your future and negative interaction with the legal system. So that's what these men did in this book, and that's what we'll be doing through our talks. We've been talking about what it means to be a cycle breaker, and there are four pillars or four standards of being a cycle breaker. The first one is you have to recognize the need to break a cycle. And we've been talking about that throughout the sessions. The fact of the matter is, we have to at some point come to grips with the fact that there's something in our life that needs to change. Maybe it's failure to go to school. Maybe you dropped out or somebody in your family dropped out. Maybe it's being the first person to go to college. Maybe it's being the first person to start that business. Or maybe even being the first person to stop domestic violence in your household. Maybe you've seen that throughout your life, and that is a cycle that keeps repeating itself. Either way, a cycle breaker has to recognize that there is a need to change for the better something going on in their life. That brings us to the second pillar of being a cycle breaker. That is committing to make a change. See, it's one thing to recognize that something needs to be changed. Oh, I need to stop smoking. Or, matter of fact, I need to stop smoking marijuana because a little lazy, a little drowsy, whatever the case may be. But you recognize that maybe I need to stop smoking marijuana. That's the same thing as anything else, right? Maybe you recognize that you need to be better in your relationships, or you need to be on time when you go to work. So it's not about these great grandiose ideas, which is wonderful to have. Being a cycle breaker is practical, everyday steps that you can take to improve your life. So once you recognize the need to change or improve something, then you have to commit to the process. And that's what we're talking about today. Committing to the process is where it gets really hard. Once you decide that you want to change something in your life, once you decide that you want to take things to the next level, that's when all the temptation is going to come. That's when every single day you're going to get those calls from your friends saying, hey, let's kick it. I know you said you want to get up first thing in the morning and look for a job, but let's go out tonight. Let's have some drinks. Let's smoke some weed. And then in the back of your mind, that may compromise your ability to get up in the morning and accomplish your goals. So that's my point about the temptations that are going to come. As soon as you decide that you want to break a cycle, as soon as you decide that you want to take your life to the next level, you are going to be hit with temptations. So in order to deal with temptations, and we know they're going to come, I want you to analyze and think about, how do you deal with temptations that come in your life? That's something that we don't think about. And in fact, there's a quote that says, a life that is not analyzed or reviewed is a life not well lived. Let me say that. A life that is not analyzed or reviewed is a life not well lived. You've heard me say that before, maybe in a different way. But the bottom line is that if you don't take the time to look back at your life and figure out what mistakes you've made or how you can do things a little bit better, you're not living to your ultimate potential. So, right now, think about for a moment, how do you deal with temptations in your life? Because we know there are types of temptation. Temptation has levels, right? First level is maybe you see something that you want, and either you get it or you don't. The next level is you're hearing something on the radio over and over and over again. Hearing about going to the club or hearing about that favorite drink or those cigarettes, and you're trying to stop smoking, but you hear it all over again. Next level is television. You see something that you want over and over and over again, yet you're trying to break the habit, but it's right there in front of you. And then the worst kind of temptation, the most deadly kind, is when it comes from people that we know, love, and respect. And they're asking you to do something that you know you shouldn't do, or they're telling you about something that you're trying to avoid, or just putting something in your face that you know you're trying to step away from. So for you, right now, think about it for a moment. How do you handle those different levels of temptation? Are you able to walk away? Are you able to say no? Are you able to postpone your gratification so that you can reach your goals, the goals that you know that you have set for yourself? And in fact, that's something that I want you to actually write down for a moment. How do you deal with temptation? Outline a scenario in your life where you've had to deal with temptation, where you've had to say, hold up, wait a minute, I'm not ready, or I don't want to go in that direction. How did you do it? Because when you realize that you've done it before, then those are the same tools that you can use to do it over and over and over again. How do you deal with your temptation? Because when you decide to be a cycle breaker, step 2, making that commitment to break the cycle, temptations will come. Here's a key to dealing with temptation. Look within yourself. So remember I said a life not analyzed or reviewed is a life not well lived. But the next level to that is to look into yourself to figure out, okay, I analyzed my life. Now what do I need to change? So when we're talking about the commitment to being a cycle breaker, when we're talking about the commitment to change and dealing with temptations, first you have to look inside yourself and say, you know what, am I causing this disruption? Am I tempting myself by my actions, by where I'm placing myself, by the environment that I put myself in? So take a look at that. Those are important questions to ask yourself. And then the next level that's attached to that, the commitment to change always starts with yourself. See, as humans, naturally, it's so much easier to point out the wrongs of other people. So-and-so did this, he did that. You know, they never give me a chance. The police are always pulling me over. And that's fine, because that may be the truth. It may be your truth, it may be all truth, right? But some things outside of yourself, you don't control. So if you're saying that, okay, I want to be a cycle breaker, I want to change these things in my life, I want to go to the next level, but yet you want to continuously say, I have no control because they keep doing this to me or he is doing that to me, you will never be a cycle breaker. You will never commit to making the change because you'll believe that the tools and the ability is outside of your control. So you have to look within yourself. What is it about me that I can change? What is it about me that I can take this scenario, this situation that I want to better myself in, smoking, getting arrested, bad relationships, not valuing education? What can I do to commit to changing that? It's so much easier to say what other people need to do, but to be a true cycle breaker, you have to start with yourself. And here's a message to all of our parents, role models, uncles, aunties. You have to be an example of change for the younger people, right? Or for someone that is struggling in your life. Forget about young. Let me not even use that because that's an easy one to just dismiss. What about that mate of yours that's struggling? So he or she is struggling with drugs. That's not your struggle. He or she is struggling with alcohol. That's not your struggle. But if you care about that person as a role model, as a friend, as a family member, you have to commit to changing too. Because if you don't exemplify change, or even worse, if you are exemplifying and supporting the opposite of what they're trying to do, you're not going to help them. Instead, you're going to hurt them in their quest to be a cycle breaker. So right now, I'm talking to all of you who are influencers, right? You have some type of influence over somebody in your life, somebody that you care about. It is our duty in these positions to make sure that we are supporting their journey of change. So you have to be strong. You have to say, you know what, if he's not drinking, I don't want him to drink anymore, I'm not going to drink. Yeah, I know his drink of choice is Hennessy, and I like wine, but I'm not going to even drink wine because I know that may tempt him to drink his Hennessy. Or if she likes smoking weed, and I don't smoke weed, I just drink, but I'm telling her not to smoke weed, but I'm going to keep drinking, that's not going to help because all she knows is you're having fun and you're getting high some way. So my point is, if you really want to support somebody that's important to you on their journey to change, then you have to be willing to make that same sacrifice. So committing to being a cycle breaker, committing to change happens on multiple levels. You commit to yourself, you avoid the temptations, and then you commit to the greater good of those around you. Maybe your small community or the community at large. But those are the levels that are required for you to commit to change and commit to being a cycle breaker. All right, back to the book, thinking about committing to change. Remember, that's part 2 of being a cycle breaker. And I'm gonna tell you why that's so important. You know, the book, life, whatever it is, the bottom line is, so we're talking about the pillars of being a cycle breaker. 1, remember, recognize the need to change, and 2, making the commitment. So when we're talking about the cycle breaker book, when we're talking about real life, look, committing to change is so very important. You will never reach your highest potential if you cannot make a commitment to those little things that you have to do every single day to change. So let me break it down to some of the things that I've done and the way I found that to be useful for me. 1 is, once you decide to do something, you have to figure out a reason to keep going. For instance, a small reward. So if every day you get up and say, you know what, I'm not smoking weed today, then what are you gonna do to reward yourself? Okay, maybe that's, you know, a movie you can watch at the end of the week. I don't know, maybe you buy yourself, maybe you save up all that money and buy yourself something nice, or buy something nice for somebody you care about. That's a way to give yourself a reward for the sacrifice. Let's take it on another level. Maybe it's something that you are deciding to do. So maybe you're saying that you're gonna exercise more, you're gonna get more sleep. What will you do to reward yourself at the end of the day for that small sacrifice? So keep in mind, the key to staying committed to whatever it is you decide to do, the key is to give yourself a small reward. So at the end of the day, you see those rewards stack up. So for instance, tuning into this talk, right? Maybe the reward for you is just getting some skills and some knowledge on how to be even better than you are right now. Or maybe the reward is the fact that you are on probation, and then once you finish these programs, you'll be off probation. And let me talk about that for a moment. If you are under an order of the court to either attend this program or any other thing, why wouldn't you do it when you know the end result is that you'll be off probation? Now, I'm not speaking about every single situation, because I know for a fact there are judges and probation officers who put a heavy burden on you. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes the things that they ask you to do may be unreasonable. It may be even unbearable. So I'm not talking about those situations where probation seems to go on and on and on with no purpose. But if you're on probation, whether it's to this court or any other court, and you know at the end of the day, the result is that you'll win, you'll be off probation, why not commit to going to the classes? Why not commit to turning up with a clean urine as opposed to a dirty one, if you know you're gonna get off probation? Or what if you're on probation for work, 90-day probation? Why would you call in late when you're on probation, when you know the end result is that if you do well, you'll get a job? So my key is that you have to set up that reward system so that when you commit to something that you want to do, you start walking down that path, you know at the end of the day, there is a reward for your commitment. That is how you be a cycle breaker. Part 2 of being a cycle breaker is to commit to breaking the cycle. Commit to that change. All right, that's my talk for today. We're making our way through the cycle breaker principles. First one is recognize the cycle that you want to change. The next one is commit to making that change. We will continue, but until then, be the best that you can be. Let's go.